If you've ever thought about switching from controller to MNK, but never really had somebody who's done it before to show you, that's what this video is for you guys. What I first started doing is having a specific mouse sensitivity, cranking it up, lowering it, and finding a good happy medium from being able to hit my shots from close range to far range. When it comes to the sensitivity, I was rocking 2.5 for a while, and that felt pretty good. Now, when it comes to long-range fighting and close-range fighting, I make little adjustments with my wrist for the long-range fighting. But when it comes to big movements, such as like re-angling to see around me or shooting up close with hip fire, I use more of my arm to make those big adjustments as people are moving around. But as the 10th day of working on MNK, I actually used a tool called Oblivity, and it's going to give you like 4 or 5 different games to play, but then it will show you, what your best sensitivity is in general, and even your best hipfire sensitivity. So for me on the top right, you can see 1.44 is my Apex Legends sensitivity, and then here on my close hipfire, since I was a little bit more accurate, not by much, it says that I can have a 3.083 sensitivity. And I'll show you one example here just so you can kind of have a reference if you do dig into this. It's going to make adjustments based on how many shots you have, if you overcorrect, undercorrect, and it does take a couple hours for them to be able to do this, but I think it's a good investment. So a scroll wheel forward is simply for tap strafing. The scroll wheel back is for jumping. I have my caps on for my toggle zoom, a space for jump, L shift for hold. Now this is one of the things that's going to be really hard at first, at least for me it was, to be crouching but then also hitting my A or my D at the same time, just because your flexibility is in the forearms. Now that flexibility will come, it's just going to probably take a few days. Tactical ability I have on my rear thumb button here, just because when I'm pointing and shooting, specifically if I'm playing like Bangalore or Fuse or something like that where you have a tactical that gets shot, I like to be able to precise as soon as I let go. So for me personally, I don't put the Q on the Q. Ultimate ability, Alt, I just take my thumb over from the space bar. I invested in like a half keyboard, and so I know a lot of people use M for map, but I can actually reach B on that keyboard. I wouldn't put map for M, it's just too far. I don't have that flexibility to go all the way over. Toggle fire mode for 3. Melee V, I'm not totally sold on this one, but I can reach it from my spacebar. Reload R. Now this is something that's a little weird for me. Not for me, but maybe for some people. So the front button is my primary button, primary weapon, and then the middle click here is or my secondary. I like to be able to switch between the two from my mouse. E for grenade, survival item 1. I like that because I can just take my ring finger and click up to 1 to do it. Now this is something I would super recommend. I saw this from Reps, MNK, TSM Reps. Said having an individual button for all of your heals is super big. It's just preference, I'm sure, for what button you have. But, all the number keys are pretty good. And this is the reason that I don't have my tactical ability on Q, because if, let's say, I need to strafe left and then hit Q, I can only strafe right and hit that button with my ring finger, and not the other way around. So that's why I switched it. But pinging isn't super important. It's good to ping an area, but it's not detrimental to where I'm moving. The next step I will recommend is go into the firing range with a buddy. And the reason this is important is because through the failure, you're going to learn which buttons you have trouble with and what you're more comfortable with, changing your sensitivity. Through failure, you're going to make the biggest adjustments. Now, right here, I'm going to explain to you here in a second what's one of the biggest things I learned from moving from controller to MNK. So go ahead and watch this terrible 1v1 by me. Alright, so one of the biggest things that's still hard for me on day 10 of MNK is playing around cover. It's getting a little bit better because we play on an analog that can go in any direction, where you go in a circle by hitting one key and then moving your mouse. At least that's what it feels like. So it feels like a little bit of a disconnect at first. Centering You don't actually aim on MNK. Like, yes, we work on centering, we work on recoil smoothing, but 40% of the work we have, if you're on PC, 40% of the work's done. If you're on console, 60% of the aiming is done for you. So go ahead and watch this. Look at all these shots that I miss. Look at this. No centering whatsoever. I'm terrible at tracking. This is going to be a big drill on how to counteract that. So with roller, your right toggle, so like I'm not centering. You can move all willy-nilly wherever you want. And see, I'm on MNK right now. It's not going to pull whatsoever. But when you're on MNK, you have to be conscious of where you're going. So what I would do is, you don't even have to shoot it first, but just focus center. Focus center. Keep it centered. We don't do that on roller. And after you get comfortable with that, go from cover to cover here, because I said that was going to be one of the hardest things that you could do. Simulate that like a knockdown. And I would do that in combination with somebody that's a little bit farther away, and also your hip fire, because see my crosshairs, I need to work on tracking because we don't do that on controller. It's done for us. This is going to be the biggest thing. Now, before I get to the last tip that's helped me through this process, I'm going to go through first the strategy that I've been using to try to take advantage of MNK, and then second of all, the gun choice. So my biggest strategy is fighting in smoke, fighting where there is no aim assist. And yes, there's going to be people that can fight great in aim assist. They can track or fight without aim assist, and they can track in the smoke because they've practiced it. There's going to be other MNK players, but getting those small victories over controller players that also had that weakness that you may have had and I had is going to give you confidence. Go ahead and play this clip. Here, I'm going to digi-fight this, okay?
Yep.
Yeah, baby! So I'm smoking on the fight, and you don't even need a digi to do this. In this clip, I'm crutching my ability. Of course, I do have a digi here, but I end up just hip firing it here. Focusing on my centering, I'm playing in the smoke. Just make sure that you don't blind your teammates when you're trying to fight, because they will get frustrated about it. And again, the reason I'm playing Bangalore is because there is no aim assist in smoke, and I'm trying to take advantage of that by playing on MNK. Now, the second to last thing I'm going to talk about is weapon choice. Now, this is all preference. You could do long-range weapons, such as like a 30-30, but I feel like the biggest difficulty you're going to have is fighting up close. So you might as well get the gold from the work you want to avoid. By doing this, I would pick a peak weapon like a PK, a Mastiff, a Wingman, and then pair it with a spray. That's a little bit more reliable. Play this. What? So as you can notice, I'm lining up my shots. And you can do that a little bit more specific with a mouse than you can a controller. What? Strafing, lining it up, not moving like too crazy. The edge that I think that I might have on this series over, let's say, an MNK player is somebody who plays controller like you and is making that transition. I'm not somebody that has played MNK forever, because they're trying to teach you things at a super high level, and you're trying to learn things here, and that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm going to share with you. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you guys in the next video.